The autumn rain hammered against the windows of Belmont Memorial Hospital in Boston, where Maya Williams, a 29-year-old black trauma surgeon with warm amber eyes and braids twisted into an elegant updo, scrubbed out after a grueling 12-hour surgery. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her body exhausted, but her mind was sharp as she processed the ultimatum her grandmother had delivered that morning. Rosa Williams, the 78-year-old matriarch who'd raised Maya after her parents died, needed experimental treatment for her heart condition, treatment that cost $300,000 their insurance wouldn't cover. The hospital's fluorescent lights made everything look sickly and pale, matching exactly how Maya felt as she leaned against the sink, watching water circle the drain like her options disappearing into nothing. Her colleague, Dr. Chen, a petite woman with kind eyes and 20 years of wisdom, found her there. "You look like someone just told you medicine isn't real," she said, touching Maya's shoulder. When Maya explained the situation, Chen's expression shifted from sympathy to something else. Calculation, perhaps, or opportunity. "I might know someone who could help, but Maya, he's complicated. Brilliant investor, philanthropist, saves lives through his medical research foundation. But personally, he's colder than a Boston winter. Doesn't do emotions, doesn't do relationships, but he does do business, and he's looking for something specific." 2 days later, Maya sat in the penthouse office of Dominic Sterling, a 35-year-old venture capitalist whose company revolutionized medical technology funding. The space was all dark wood and leather, with abstract art that probably cost more than Maya's entire education. When Dominic entered, Maya's breath caught involuntarily. He was striking, 6'3", with deep brown skin, a precisely trimmed beard, and gray eyes so unusual they seemed almost supernatural against his complexion. He wore a three-piece charcoal suit that fit like a second skin, and he moved with the controlled grace of someone who'd learned to weaponize every gesture. His hands were beautiful, long-fingered and elegant, the hands of a pianist, though Maya would learn he never played. There was something about his presence that filled the room, not warmth but magnitude, like standing near something vast and unknowable. "Dr. Williams," he said, his voice a deep baritone that seemed to resonate in her chest. "Dr. Chen tells me you need funding for your grandmother's treatment. I can provide it. All of it, plus $1 million for your student loans and research funding." He poured tea with precise movements, finally offering her something, though the gesture felt more like a chess move than hospitality. "In exchange, you'll enter into a marriage contract for 2 years. I need a wife to satisfy the terms of my father's will. I inherit his medical research empire only if I'm married by my 36th birthday, 6 months from now." Maya's hands tightened around the teacup, the warmth seeping through porcelain into her palms. "You want to buy a wife?" The words came out sharper than she intended, but exhaustion and desperation had burned away her filter. "I want a mutually beneficial arrangement," Dominic corrected, his expression unchanged. "You save your grandmother. I save my company and the thousands of patients who depend on our research funding. After 2 years, we divorce cleanly. You walk away with resources to pursue any specialty you choose." He slid a contract across the desk, thick as a novel. "Everything is outlined here. Separate bedrooms, public appearances as needed, complete confidentiality. No emotional complications. I don't do love, Dr. Williams. I do logic." Maya should have run. Every instinct screamed that you don't bargain with ice and expect warmth. But she thought of Rosa, of the woman who'd sacrificed everything to raise her, who'd worked 3 jobs so Maya could have the tutors and opportunities that led to medical school. She thought of Rosa's laugh, her stories, her hands braiding Maya's hair on Sunday mornings. And Maya signed her name, selling 2 years of her life for the chance to save the woman who'd given her everything. The wedding was elegant but empty, held in a private room at the Four Seasons, with a judge and 2 witnesses pulled from Dominic's staff. Maya wore a simple ivory-sheathed dress, and Dominic gave her a platinum wedding band that felt like a shackle despite its beauty. His kiss at the altar was brief and impersonal, his lips barely brushing hers, a performance for the legal requirement. But for just a moment, Maya thought she felt him hesitate, felt something flicker in those strange gray eyes before the mask slammed back into place. Life as Mrs. Sterling was disorienting. Dominic's penthouse overlooked Boston Harbor, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture in blacks and whites and grays. Her bedroom was in the east wing, his in the west, with the main living areas between them like a demilitarized zone. He kept impossible hours, often leaving before dawn and returning after midnight. When they were together, he was unfailingly polite, holding doors, asking about her day at the hospital, ensuring she had everything she needed materially. But there was a wall between them thicker than the one separating their bedrooms. Built from whatever pain had taught him that distance was safer than connection. 2 weeks into the marriage, Maya began noticing cracks in Dominic's armor. He'd ask about her surgeries with genuine interest, his questions revealing deep medical knowledge. When she mentioned being frustrated with the hospital's outdated equipment, a donation appeared, anonymous, but she knew. He began leaving fresh coffee for her in the morning, her preferred blend from a cafe in Roxbury, made exactly the way she liked it, though she'd never told him. Small gestures, easily dismissed, but Maya's grandmother had taught her to pay attention to what people did, not what they said. The first real conversation happened on a Friday night when Maya found Dominic on the balcony at 2 in the morning, staring at the harbor lights like they held answers to questions he couldn't articulate. She'd had a patient die that evening, a teenager, a gunshot wound, nothing she could do, and sleep felt impossible. "Can't sleep either?" she asked, wrapping her robe tighter against the October chill. Dominic glanced at her, and for once his mask slipped. She saw exhaustion there, and something else, a loneliness so profound it made her chest ache. "I don't sleep much," he admitted. "Haven't for years. Too many thoughts. Too many ghosts." He poured whiskey from a bottle on the side table, offering her a glass. This time it felt less like a chess move and more like an olive branch. Maya accepted, settling into the chair beside him. "Want to talk about it?" She half expected him to shut down, to retreat behind his walls. But perhaps the late hour and the darkness made confession easier. "I was engaged once," Dominic said quietly, his gaze fixed on the dark water. 8 years ago. Vanessa. She was everything. Light and laughter and spontaneity. Everything I wasn't. I thought I didn't deserve her, but she insisted she loved me. Loved my darkness too, she said. His jaw tightened, muscle jumping beneath skin. 3 months before the wedding, I came home early from a business trip, found her in our bed with my business partner. Turned out she'd been using me the whole time, wanted access to my money, my connections. The love was performance. Very convincing performance. Maya's heart cracked for him, understanding flooding through her. "So you built walls, made everything transactional so no one could use you again." "Walls are honest," Dominic said, finally looking at her. "They don't pretend to be windows." But his eyes held a question, a vulnerability that contradicted his words. "Are you a wall or a window, Maya Williams?" From that night, something shifted. Dominic began coming home earlier, timing his arrival to when Maya finished her shifts. They'd have dinner together, conversations flowing easily about medical ethics, about their childhoods, hers in Dorchester with Rosa's fierce love, his in boarding schools with parents too busy building empires to notice their son. He started smiling occasionally, small curves of his lips that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. Maya caught herself looking forward to seeing him, cataloging the tiny ways he showed care, ensuring her car was serviced, her favorite food stocked, her grandmother's medical bills handled so seamlessly Rosa never saw them. 3 months into the marriage, everything changed. They attended a charity gala together, and Maya wore an emerald green gown that made Dominic's eyes darken when he saw her. All evening, his hand rested on her lower back, proprietary and possessive, in a way that made her skin hum. When a drunk businessman made inappropriate comments about Maya's body, Dominic's composure cracked, not into rage, but into something colder and more devastating. He destroyed the man's reputation with 3 quiet phone calls, protecting Maya with the same ruthless efficiency he applied to business deals. In the car ride home, tension crackled between them like electricity. "You didn't have to do that," Maya said softly, though warmth bloomed in her chest at his protectiveness. "He disrespected you," Dominic said, his voice rough. "My wife. That's unacceptable." The possessiveness in those words should have alarmed her, but Maya recognized it for what it was. Not control, but care. The care of someone who'd learned to express love through action rather than words because words had betrayed him. Dominic, Maya said carefully, her heart pounding. This was supposed to be just business. No emotional complications. Remember? He pulled the car over on a quiet street, turning to face her. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, highlighting the hunger in his eyes that he'd been suppressing for months. I'm failing spectacularly at keeping it business, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Every day I tell myself to maintain distance. Every day I fail a little more. You're in my thoughts during meetings. Your laugh is the first thing I want to hear in the morning. When you're at the hospital, the penthouse feels empty in a way it never did before. And I'm terrified, Maya, because the last time I let someone in, Maya cupped his face, feeling the muscle jump in his jaw beneath her palms. I'm not Vanessa. I'm not performing. What I feel for you is real. So real it scares me too. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. But it did. And I think it happened for you too. Before you even admitted it to yourself. Dominic's control shattered. He kissed her like a man drowning, like she was air and light and salvation. His hands tangled in her braids, careful not to pull, and Maya melted into him, months of suppressed longing igniting into flame. Come home with me, he whispered against her lips. Not to your room, to mine, to our room. Because I can't pretend anymore that you're just a contract. You're everything. That night they crossed every line they'd drawn, and Maya discovered that beneath Dominic's ice was fire hot enough to burn away all her defenses. He worshipped her body with reverence that brought tears to her eyes, whispering her name like a prayer, like she was something precious he'd finally allowed himself to want. And afterward, wrapped in his arms, Maya felt the last of his walls crumble as he buried his face in her neck and whispered, I love you. God help me, I love you. And I don't know how to do this without destroying it. Then we learned together, Maya said, holding him close. We build something new. Not walls, not just windows. A home, with doors that open from both sides. The next year was transformation. Dominic learned vulnerability, learned that love wasn't weakness, but courage. He met Rosa, charming her with unexpected humor and obvious devotion to Maya. He began therapy, excavating the wounds Vanessa had left and the childhood abandonment that preceded them. Maya learned to recognize when his old fears surfaced, learned to offer reassurance without enabling retreat. They fought sometimes, passionate, honest fights that cleared the air rather than poisoning it. And then they'd make up with equal passion, rebuilding trust through truth and touch. When the 2-year mark approached, they shredded the original contract in Dominic's office, laughing as the pieces fluttered like snow. I'm drafting a new one, Dominic said, pulling Maya into his lap. Lifetime term, shared bedroom clause, mandatory daily kisses, non-negotiable vacation time, and a provision for at least 2 children, though I'm open to negotiation on exact numbers. Maya kissed him, tasting joy and promise and forever. I have one condition, no more walls, ever. No more walls, Dominic agreed. Just us. Just this. Just real. 6 months later, Maya stood in the penthouse, their home now, redecorated in warm colors that reflected both of them, watching Dominic play with their godson, Rosa's great-nephew. He was gentle and playful, the ice completely melted, replaced by a man who'd learned that love wasn't transaction but gift, freely given and received. That night, wrapped in his arms, Maya reflected on the journey from contract to forever. She learned that red flags weren't always about danger. Sometimes they were about damage, about people so wounded they forgot how to be whole. The key was recognizing whether someone wanted to heal or wanted to stay broken. Dominic had wanted healing. He just needed someone brave enough to weather the thaw. She'd learned that love required vigilance, not suspicious guarding, but conscious attention, choosing each other daily, refusing to let fear rebuild the walls pain had erected. What are you thinking? Dominic murmured against her hair, his hand tracing lazy circles on her hip. That I'd sign that contract again, Maya said honestly. Every time. Because it led me here. To you. To us. to understanding that sometimes the greatest risk is trusting yourself enough to trust someone else. Dominic shifted, propping himself up to look at her, his gray eyes now warm as summer fog. I spent years believing I was too broken to deserve love, that what Vanessa did proved I was fundamentally unlovable. But you showed me that I wasn't broken. I was protecting something precious, and it took someone equally precious to make vulnerability worth the risk. Outside, Boston lights glittered like promises, and Maya understood that reclaiming yourself after betrayal wasn't about building better walls. It was about learning to recognize who deserved access to your heart. It was about understanding that red flags weren't always obvious banners, but sometimes subtle signs. Chronic emotional unavailability without desire to change. Patterns of blame without accountability. Love as performance rather than practice. Dominic had been unavailable, yes, but he'd wanted to change, had done the work, had chosen growth over comfort. Promise me something, Maya said, threading her fingers through his, that will always choose honesty over comfort, that will keep talking, keep showing up, keep doing the hard work of really seeing each other. I promise, Dominic said, sealing it with a kiss, every day, for all our days. And in that moment, Maya knew that true love wasn't the absence of red flags. It was the courage to address them honestly, the willingness to grow, and the wisdom to recognize the difference between someone who couldn't love and someone who was learning how. She'd reclaim not just herself, but the belief that vulnerability and strength could coexist, that trust was earned through consistent action, and that the most powerful thing you could do was choose love with open eyes, aware of the risks, but believing in the possibility. The rain had stopped, leaving Boston washed clean and gleaming with new light. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.